my HF G40. I use this a lot. I take it outside with me. I use it everywhere. This thing. I can't believe this. What is this? Some kind of ancient recording device. What is this thing? It's from like 2016 or something like that. Cool. Hey everybody, how you doing today? I'm Dan and I'm just going to go over my Canon HF G40. I've made a couple videos about it, showing it on my Zhiyun Weeble S and trying it out in vlogs and other things. And I've owned this camera since 2016 now. I actually bought it because I was working on a friend of mine's YouTube channel and the cameras I had at the time weren't quite cutting it. And I've been pretty impressed with this camera since the 5 years that I've had it now. It's 2021. So how is this camera doing in 2021? Some things I really like about it are the fact that it's just a workhorse. I've used it more than any other camera, and I'm gonna lose this thing in my hands. It's distracting me. I use my Panasonic app. Right now I'm using my Panasonic GH5S. I know I just said I use my Canon HF G40 probably more than any other camera. I do use my newer ones quite often. And why would I use this instead of my Panasonic GH5S? Or like even if I had a newer Canon R5, why would I still keep using this? That's a good question. And I think it's an easy question to answer because it's easy to use, really. I mean, it's simplicity of use. It's compact. Everything is in it that you need. It has wicked image stabilization, great low light, has built-in, well, you can take it off, the lens hood, and has a nice big lens. It's a 58 millimeters thread size, and built-in audio, easy to use, capacitive touch screen. I could go on and on. I love the aftermarket features. This aftermarket battery lasts 5 hours. I have 2 of them. I lost the original battery, but these aftermarket batteries, I've used them time and time again. They have not failed on me. I'm not sure what brand they are. Let me have a look at that. The brand is BM. I also have these same ones for my Panasonic GH5S. And I've been using my Panasonic GH5S for almost a year now. And the batteries are doing great. They have not depleted in any form whatsoever. These 5-hour batteries are wicked. They're just a little big for using in my gimbal or anything like that, but actually the gimbal has a little razor so you can raise it above the area that it's almost touching anyway, but it doesn't really hit it. There's enough clearance. I don't really need to use this on my gimbal anyway. I just thought it was funny and a neat thing that you could actually use this on a gimbal. So it's kind of neat that you could raise it up really high in the air and all that stuff. Some really cool features about this camera that I like. I think one of the coolest features is the built-in ND filters. It has 4 stops of ND filters. Let me just check that out to make sure. I don't exactly memorize every little thing about it, but you get used to using it. So it has ND filter 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, then it goes all the way to f8 with a ND 1/8. So it doesn't really say how many different ND filters there are. you can turn the ND filter on and off. So it's 1 out of 8 maybe? I'm not sure really how this works. 1 out of 4? 1 out of 2? I mean, it works pretty good. You just, you know, find it on your screen right there. I made a video showing all the menu functions, so I don't really need to go over that again. It's really easy to use. You can just slide this back and forth so easily. It's like buttery smooth. And the ND filters just apply as long as you have it turned on in the menu. There are some menu functions that will be grayed out when you use them. Like for instance, if you have it on cinema mode, then you can't use the ND filters. So that's a little bit useless. I have some video showing that. I think I might be actually talking in the video, so we'll switch over to that. We're in cinema mode. Some of the settings aren't available in cinema mode. I'm not sure exactly which ones they were right offhand. I think maybe I'll just take this right outside. I'm gonna try to put a LUT on this as well. Even though this isn't, you don't really have a lot of information to push around with this camera. The cinema mode's pretty cool, but kind of useless. It's not the best, but I think the most important feature is that it shoots in either AVC HD or MP4. The MP4 is a slightly bigger bit per second, megabits per second, and it's 35 megabits per second, and the AVC HD is only 28 megabits per second, so it gives you a little more headroom. But I've actually noticed that, especially in DaVinci Resolve for some reason, that this camera looks great. Like the colors in it look fantastic for only 35 megabits. Comparatively, when I'm editing in my GH5 or one of my Canon cameras that have a little bit more room for editing, it's still not raw or anything like that, mind you, but we're talking like 100 megabits per second or 150, 200, even 400 megabits per second. This thing actually holds its own for only 35 megabits per second. I can show you some of the video I've took and adding little curves and everything. As long as you're not like overexposing or underexposing and you nail your white balance fairly decently, I think you're gonna be okay. It's a very easy run and gun camera to use. Pull it off your shelf, grab it and go. Like you barely have to make sure that the battery is charged because it lasts so damn long. And if you have another one in your pocket, you're ready to go. Only takes powered mic. You cannot plug in an unpowered battery into this thing. Won't work. That'll only work on digital SLRs that support that feature. Some camcorders do support that feature. My experience is not many. Yeah, that's usually a more expensive thing, and older camcorders would have that. But I haven't kept up with camcorders. This is the only well, actually I have a Panasonic camcorder still, but I rarely use that one anymore. I do have a video on that one. That's the Panasonic TM700. So this is the HF G40. Canon HF G40. Some things that I'm not really enjoying about this, like I said, are the cinema mode is kind of useless. It's getting kind of loud when you turn it on. Let's listen to this. Here, I'll put it up to my mic. Hear that sound? I'm gonna turn it off. Crazy sound, eh? So I don't know if that's the lens or mechanisms moving back and forth into place. Pretty sure it wasn't that loud when I first bought it, so that's a little distressing. Few people have left comments on my YouTube channel expressing some sort of dismay or malcontent with the rocker zoom lever thing, saying that it stops functioning for them. But there is good news. If that stops functioning for them, on the inside, there is a software one, and it works very well. It's actually works better with your fingers than this one does, because you can affect the zoom more gradually. It's a little bit more finer to do it with your fingers on this capacitive touchscreen. It works really well. I'm actually surprised. So don't fret if your zoom rocker stops working. Mine has not. I've owned this thing for 6 years. I did read that it is possible to clean it with one of those air pressure spray can things, and maybe like a cotton swab and a Q-tip if you can take it apart and get at the sensors. I'm not sure if I'd want to do that myself, but apparently it's just a dirty sensor thing. Like I said, you could probably use the software one better than the actual zoom rocker anyway. So it's not really a big deal if you ask me. I think there's also a handle you can buy with a different zoom level. This camera is only going to be like $1,000 Canadian from Amazon. It might, you might be able to find it a little cheaper, or it might cost a little more, give or take. But this is a really good camera. For reference, you could get a Panasonic G85, and I believe there's a Canon and a Sony model that also have like full frame, probably very basic video functions though, whereas this thing will get you all the way there. Things that this doesn't have are like the color bars, color wheels, histogram, and all that. There's no level indicator or anything like that. My GH5S has all of those features built into it, but my GH5S was also about $3,400 Canadian, so that's a pretty big difference. When this thing came out, it wasn't even $2,000 Canadian, so this is almost half the price brand new when it came out as my GH5S. Or something similar, comparable. I think these have probably come down a little bit in price, the GH5S, but these are completely different cameras. I mean, these are like mirrorless digital SLR style. This doesn't have an absolutely huge sensor. The newer versions do. I'm not sure why it's so powerful for night shooting and all that, how it looks so good. I know you don't get any bokeh, real depth of field or anything like that, unless you're doing some weird trickery where you're standing up close to your subject. You get your foreground out of focus instead of your background. You can do stuff like that. That's pretty cool. It is possible to be pretty creative with this, but the dynamic range isn't as great as some of the new mirrorless cameras. However, it is as good as some of the older ones, and it is as good as any phone, or it's probably better than any phone. Honestly, this thing has wicked color, wicked room for editing. Like I said, you got 35 megabits per second of room for editing and stuff like that, so it's fairly decent file sizes. Very easy to edit. That's another thing that's great about this camera. But obviously not everything is great about this. This isn't like the absolute best camera in the world. Like I said, dynamic range is gonna suffer. Audio is okay. It's better than some, not as good as others. I'm not a super expert on all the different audio dynamic range crap and everything, but I know it sounds pretty good. Twin memory slots, you got dual memory cards in here. You can do relay recording or do double up on the same recording. You can also use it as a hard drive and pass files to friends. What else can you do with this? It has line in. You can record directly from, if you're recording bands, you can stick your microphone directly into the thing. And I've done that. You can see videos on my channel where I've used this camera and I've recorded bands directly onto the audio thing. It's been a while. Actually, I'm not sure if I've uploaded any of that stuff to my channel or not. I'm gonna have to get on that. So don't go looking for it. I have no idea if it's there. I do have some band stuff on my channel, but that might be much older. I actually use this very same mic. This mic is mad old. I got this on a digital 8. I bought this for a digital 8. I have to do that scratching again. And it's just held up over the years, it's worked pretty good. It takes a little, what is it, a AAA battery in there, or is it a double A? I forget, no, it's a double A battery, and it lasts absolutely forever. I love it. I've used the same battery for like 12 years. No, that's probably an exaggeration, because if you leave the little thing on, the battery dies. That's something you have to watch out with these. You can also plug in your lapel mic though. I have one right here, because it has the jack. You can use any mic, right? I mean, as long as it's battery powered, it doesn't really matter. It's got all kinds of buttons all over this damn thing. You can choose your autofocus, manual focus right here on your LCD screen. You also have a pre-record function right here on your LCD screen. Your headphones, everything's really easy to reach. Your volume, battery info, display is right here. You can get rid of everything on your display by hitting the battery info display button on the inside of the screen. There's also a instant playback button for stuff you recorded. And you got your stop record button on the very back. Menu, little joystick dial thing for your menu in case you don't want to use your capacitive touchscreen and get your filthy mitts all over it. And this kind of jacks right here. You got your USB jack for hooking it up to your computer. Files transfer nice and fast. Works like a hard drive. You cannot delete the files from your computer. You have to do it from the machine here itself. Bit of a pain in the ass. I like how I can do that on my GH5S. I can hook up my GH5S directly to my computer, and when I'm done loading the files, I can actually delete all the files from the card. Can't do that on this. I haven't, you can actually drag and drop files onto the card though, like I was saying. You can treat this like a hard drive. You can do the same with the GH5S. So that's nice. So you can put any files, you can transfer files from any camera in this camera. So it doesn't matter if it's from Panasonic or Sony, you can stick it in the card slot and transfer all your files from this thing. So if you have an old one of these and all you want to do is use it for a memory card thing for some stupid reason, well, you could do that. I don't know why you'd want to waste that money, but whatever. So your little cinema switch is right on top. You have your on, and then you have auto, manual, and cinema. That's all in this switch right on the top by your rocker zoom panel. That's kind of confusing. I couldn't find that when I first bought my camera. I was like, what are they talking about cinema? For some reason I couldn't see this. Kind of looks like another on switch, but it's your auto, manual, and cinema. So you can just stick it all the way over to the left for auto, right in the middle for manual, and all the way over to the right for cinema. Got a little hot shoe accessory shoe thing. Lots of accessories for this camera once again. Pretty much all the accessories for all the different versions of this camera fit. So you're rocking with this thing. There's lots of different conversion lenses. Maybe not lots, there's at least 2. What else do you need then? I don't know. So it's fairly wide lens too. What does it say? So it goes from 3.67 to 73.4 millimeters. So 3.67 in full frame language. We're talking like this thing would be about the equivalent of a 16 to 18 millimeter, somewhere in there. It's fairly wide, but not super wide. Like I wouldn't be starting to do real estate video without a wide angle conversion lens or something like that. Something that I've been looking into doing. And yeah, you couldn't do that with this unless you get the wide angle conversion lens for it. And then maybe you could, but it's fairly wide. I mean, at the same time, you don't have to have it super far away to get something that, you know what I mean, that's relatively close and big. You can, like 18 millimeter roughly full frame equivalent, I think. It's hard to say with these cameras, but it's much better than a lot of older camcorders. Like if you have like the TM700 I was telling you about, has about a 38 millimeter full frame equivalent. So, you know what I mean? You got to be a lot further back with that camera. But I mean, that's a pretty good looking camera too. It has pretty good imaging for how small the sensors are. But this thing is just gonna stand out, seriously. I mean, especially in a world of full frames and stuff like that, this thing is definitely pretty good. You will not get the bokeh. You will not get the full frame look, but you will get really good colors. You will get excellent low light footage, as long as you don't crank the crap out of the, you know, out of the game. Just watch what you're doing a little bit, watch your white balance and all that jazz, and you should be grand, you should be good to go. It also has lots of, like this little thing can be used for adjusting white balance, and it has all kinds of little knobs and buttons you can customize. Not all kinds of them, but enough. I have a little button where I can customize my Wi-Fi. It's a little tricky to set up the Wi-Fi, but once you do, you got it, you're golden and you're good. It uses a Wi-Fi browser, by the way. This does not use an app. There's no downloading of an app onto your phone. Wi-Fi works. It's not super awesome. There's a little bit of a delay to it. Basically, it's good if you don't have another helping hand to get you through a shoot or something like that. If you're just doing a talking head of yourself, need to make sure you're in focus. This thing has excellent autofocus, by the way. There's barely anything to worry about. The autofocus on this is way better than any Panasonic or any digital SLR and most mirrorless cameras. Oh, from 2016, camcorders are the only real autofocus choice. I gotta tell you, unless you're gonna spend $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on a camera, you can just forget about autofocus working as well as something like this. I'm not joking. Like if you're looking for autofocus, this is your main workhorse right here. This thing will keep you in focus all day long and will not lose you for $1,000. So that's all I got about to say. 2021, this camcorder is awesome. I'm sure the newer ones are great. I haven't tried them, but if it's anything like this thing, go nuts, man, do it. And buy these used, buy it wherever you can, just buy it, send me one, send me another one, I want one.